that we, thank you, Connor. This particular way that we try to run the centre. So I think what we're doing is very radical compared to much of the outside world. We're not a service that you pay for. We try to operate on this basis of give what you can, take what you need. Often how we talk about that is in terms of money, which is very important, and without it we couldn't be here. But the other thing that kind of keeps us going, and without which we wouldn't be here, is people giving their time and their energy. So the Dharma economy is very much as much about giving your time and your skills as it is about giving money. So we really want to make it as easy as possible for people to get involved here, and because not only because that's beneficial for the centre in some way, but because in a way that is the centre. The sort of Buddhist teaching about teach it samapada, condition co-production. The centre is very much a manifestation of that as much as anything in the world, but we try to behave as if we know that, which I suppose is the difference. I'm obviously a bit of a guest here for this evening, but there's a big team supporting it that kind of is doing lots behind the scenes, without which this wouldn't be happening. There have been people cleaning the handrails. Arivachin was down on his hands and knees hoovering the carpet on the stairs. We've had people doing the flowers, all sorts of things, much of which sort of doesn't normally get noticed, which in a way is wonderful that it's sort of being done so well that you don't even see it. But hopefully that tonight is a bit of an opportunity to bring some of that into the light. That was irony. You may not have noticed that online, but one of the lights just went out. Metaphorically, it's probably coming into the light. So it's this flow of energy of people giving themselves, their time and their energy, that brings the centre into being and keeps it here. So we've been working to bring a particular kind of model into action at the centre for, I suppose it's probably been a couple of years now that the project's been rolling, and that's been the idea of that has been to sort of try and make it easier for people to get involved, but also to sort of support that vision of co-creation, to give people this sense of ownership and of responsibility at the centre. And this is the sort of circles model, which you may or may not have heard about. So occasionally you'll probably hear people talk about the cleaning circle, or the maintenance circle, or the centre circle, or so lots of circles. And in a way, a circle is just a team, but we use that term partly because there is this this particular model that we're using of what's called nested circles. So they all kind of each circle has a certain amount of autonomy. It's responsible for something quite clearly defined, and all of that is overseen and held by the council. So that the council is sort of group of people who've been very committed at the centre for a long time. Board members like Kusadevi and Arivachin, but also Paul, myself. Rachel, now I've got to list everyone. Jotada is also on the council. Karen Avacha is on the council. Came Siri. So the group Kashantika. I knew I was going to forget someone. I think that's everyone. So the group. I have said Rachel. So the group of us hold the sort of legal responsibility and the kind of oversight. But then within that, there's all of these other teams and other circles. Who are responsible for particular things. So that's what it is. I should credit, I think, Karen Avacha, who was the person who first kind of brought in this idea of the nested circle thing. So it's been, as I say, it's been gestating for a while. It's been running in the background for quite a few months now, but we're really kind of rolling it out and inviting you to get stuck in now. Yeah, particularly through lockdown, this was a bit of a project that was running in the background. Yeah, and the reason we brought that in was, again, to support a sense of ownership for people and openness, so we can be quite clear about who's holding what and sort of make it easier for communication to flow and to bring people into the centre and to get involved, basically. There's probably a lot more I could say, but I think that gives you a bit of a flavour of what that's been about. So we're going to be hearing from 4 circle coordinators. So a circle coordinator is sort of the person who who coordinates their little team. So they sort of handle a lot of the communication. Quite often they're sort of keeping an overview of what's going on. You'll probably get a flavour of what the coordinators have been up to from their individual talks. Yeah, and we're going to be hearing about what their different teams do, what they have been doing, some of their sort of achievements, and also a bit more personally about what the coordinators have got out of volunteering, how it's sort of helped their practice. And that's yeah. So to sort of talk about myself for a moment, volunteering's been really important to me. So I've obviously the light has come back. Again, I don't know how to interpret that. It's obviously the inspiration has returned. I was about to start talking about ordination, so maybe that is appropriate. So I got my my invitation to be ordained at the end of last year, at the beginning of December, and yeah, when I look back at the sort of course of my involvement at the centre, volunteering and working here, it's been really important. I mean, not long before I ended up doing the centre manager role that I do now, and even before that, I was sort of the bookkeeper for a little bit. But I was involved in different capacities for years before, having a sort of paid role, and I've found that's very helpful in a lot of ways. Yeah, so. Yeah, in a way, my spiritual life over the last, I'd say, I've been coming to the centre for I think about 8 or 9 years. I didn't take responsibility immediately, but generally I think that path that I've been on has been one of increasing responsibility, which it's been very important to me. I mean, there is of course something about taking responsibility which can lead to growth. But you can do that in all sorts of places, at work or family. But there's something about having done that in the context of this place in particular, which I've found helpful. In a way, I think there's something about me that means I could never quite do that at work. I would just sort of have to be very much behind the values and the meaning of a place in order to actually give myself fully to it. Probably an experience that lots of people can resonate with. And yes, the values that are alive here, particularly I think the value of friendship and of connection, and I would say friendship on quite in a very deep, meaningful sense. I mean, I have lots of very pleasant interactions with people, but it's when things get difficult or things go wrong, the friendship doesn't evaporate. People are still up for communicating, for working through difficulties, for staying connected, even when things have become strained. And that I've found very moving and very powerful, but also like a real catalyst for growing and changing. Because so often my experience outside of the centre is that when the crunch points come, you disengage or you cut off from each other, and that's the end of it. Eventually, someone moves to a different team or something like that. It's definitely not been like that here. And the quality of communication as well. People are very up for really sharing themselves in a way that I've found very rare in work, or even with my family. I think, as much as I love them very dearly, but yeah, there's a quality of openness that I've benefited from here, which is remarkable. Yeah, well, one thing I was going to say, I've seen it in my notes, is that everyone we're going to hear from tonight, all four of the sort of circle coordinators, I consider friends as well. So we work together to varying degrees, but yeah, they're all my friends, which is very nice. Yeah, and the other wonderful thing about working in a context like this, whether particularly volunteering, is it's an opportunity to get your energy behind the Dharma. So the fact that you come here and clean. So for many years I was cleaning and hoovering. I was hoovering those stairs, and what else are we doing? Like mopping the floor of the shrine room, although I used to be particularly fascinated by the sand bowl. You sort of sieve it as if you're panning for gold, except all you get is the butts of incense sticks, which is still it smells quite nice, but it's not so valuable. Doing even that, which is quite very grounded, very simple in a way. It means that for me, I found that it made me feel connected to the place in a way that brought more and more of my energy into connection with it. Sometimes when we talk about energy, it can sound quite lofty and like you have to have all these profound, complex meditations going on. But actually just cleaning something, even if you don't deliberately intend to, it's an expression of care. It's an expression of reverence almost. Particularly feel like that in the shrine room. And yeah, almost naturally, the kind of fruit of doing that over time is you feel more of yourself in the place. Yeah, and that's been true in lots of different ways as I've sort of had the opportunity to give here. Yeah, I'm somewhat ahead of my schedule. So just before I hand over to some of the speakers, I really want to rejoice in everyone who's about to speak. I will probably say a little bit about each of them as we go through, but just to say that these are not the only people giving. There are many, many more. Each one of them represents a team. So there are, just on that level, for each person you see, there's between probably between 2 and 10 of the people that they represent. Each of whom has given their time, their creativity, their energy to supporting what happens here. And then there are lots of other teams who, of course, we can't represent, and I won't name all of them. The chances are, if there's something you feel you want to give to the centre, or if there's a particular skill you feel you have, there's probably a context for you to do that. And there are lots of people already doing so. So just a very brief kind of rejoicing in all of those people before I hand on to some specific people. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think given that this section is probably going to take longer than I planned, I think we'll just move straight into it. So, Ed, are you there? Would you be willing to be our first speaker? Yeah, thumbs up. So I'll just introduce Ed very briefly. I know he doesn't enjoy being singled out, so I won't go too hard. So Ed is the circle coordinator for the maintenance team, the Lokapalas. So a number of our teams at the centre, hopefully one day I hope all of the circles at the centre will have a mythical name. The Lokapalas was the first, that was Aryabhachan's invention. So a Lokapala, correct me if I'm wrong, is they're sort of Dharma protectors, so they're protectors of a place. I'm not quite sure what else to say about that. So there's a myth of these sort of beings who protect particular locations in Buddhist mythology. So it's a very appropriate name for the Lokapalas, the maintenance team, who are also protectors of the place. Yeah, and Ed is an unbelievably capable man. It's almost superhuman. So there is something supernatural about it. Yeah, I mean, just to name a few of the things that you all will have probably experienced and benefited from. He's fitted, along with Arivachi, in the kitchen downstairs, so that lovely new kitchen that we came back to after lockdown, those of you who came to Sangha before, that was all fitted by the Lokapalas, and yeah, it's beautiful. One thing that happened very recently from another member of the Lokapalas was Keith did some work on this back door, so you'll see that it's properly filled in now. And on the other side, it's been beautifully painted because it was starting to sort of go. So yeah, there's sort of loads of things like that happening all of the time. Just sort of keeping the Lokapalas kind of keep the place together. And Ed is the absolute linchpin of that team. So I'm going to hand over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Gareth. Evening, everybody. So I'll just be very brief. We obviously do an awful lot for the centre, the whole team, from small jobs to big jobs. So in general, for us, for the maintenance team, if anybody's got skills that would like to sort of, you could probably come and develop some, but also contribute, then just get in contact with one of us, and I'm sure we'll find somewhere to put you to use. But Gareth asked me mainly to look into, sort of talk about why I started doing it and what I get out of it. So I started doing it because it was a very good way of giving back to the centre. Money is one thing, but I enjoy doing these kind of things. I enjoy the challenge of doing maintenance work and building things and fixing things. And I could do it. And I could see that around the centre, lots of stuff needed doing. So it was kind of like, right, well, I can do it. Therefore, let's go for it. And yeah, probably a bit overly confident at times about some of my skills, but yeah, that helps other people come in and chip in and keep things ticking over. But it's, as I say, I sort of echo some of the stuff that Gareth said, which is it's about supporting the centre, giving back to the centre, making a place that we want to be there, keeping it going for everybody else, make it a nice place for people to come and practice. I spent a lot of time during lockdown at the centre, which was a blessing because I live on my own. So it was nice to get out and actually do something, even when I was working on my own. But it also kept me greatly in touch with the practicalities of the centre and the practice itself. So it forced me to sort of keep engaged in ways that I'm not really all that aware of myself. But yeah, it is. I originally joined because somebody just said, what kind of skills do you have? And I wrote down on a piece of paper. And then I got asked, do you want to help out doing, I don't know what it was painting something. And then it just kind of, it's just sort of gone from there. And I've kind of become notional leader as Aryavachan retired from the maintenance team in his leader role. And yeah, I just find it very worthwhile for myself. I like to see it. I like to see the place looking nice. I like to be able to see it improving. I also like to make sure that it's safe and that things we can develop and we can change as we go along. And if people have ideas about how things want to be changed, we can do that. One of the bigger jobs that's coming up soon will be Connor is leading installing network and internet throughout the building. So that comes down to me to kind of go, right, okay, well, let's start knocking holes in walls and things. And we will start sorting out the practicalities of getting it running. But I do get an immense sense of pleasure from doing this. And there is parts of me which goes against the Buddhism one, but I like to see people enjoying the space, and I like to hear that people appreciate the work that we've all been doing. And the longer we can do it, the better, because the more the building is an old building and it needs a lot of care and attention. And we're there to try and keep the building ticking, keep it going, make sure there's lots of space and lots of comfort for everybody's practice going forward. From my personal experience of volunteering has been great one of connecting with people. So another reason I stepped up to do it was I kind of was in a place where I was very detached from a lot of things and a lot of people. And it was a way of basically getting to know people. I get to know people a lot easier when I'm partially distracted doing things. So when I'm busy, I'm more likely to be much more calm and a lot more open. And that, by forcing myself to come and do that, and that has been, it was a challenge at the start, but it's a way of challenging myself on those grounds and getting to know people. So there's quite a few people that I'd like, as Gareth said, I mean, me and Gareth got to know each other quite well through the work at the centre. Myself and I, Raj, and then our others as well, Keith and Vanessa. There's been a bunch of other people who have come in and just, they do a few days here, we might not see them again, but it's a way of getting to know them more as well. I would recommend volunteering just for that. If you want to sort of meet people and get to know people in a different environment, because coming to Sangha night is one thing, but sometimes you can like, I want to talk for more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it gives you that space to sort of enjoy each other's company in something that you both find sort of interesting and that you're both contributing in a way. And that can be really kind of, it might just start out as you're just friends or you just get to know each other, but there is times where it just bleeds into that spiritual friendship as well, where sometimes I'm very uncomfortable talking about the Dharma because I'm not really sure on it. So it's nice to be able to be in those spaces where it builds your confidence in those areas, and it sort of exposes you more to the Dharma in general with people around you, and you pick up on everybody's experiences as well. Because I'd never heard of the local palace before Aravachan came up with it. And it's something that I went and had a look at to find out a little bit more about. So it's a way of learning about what's going on as well. Yeah. So I will hand back to Gareth now. But as I say, anybody who wants to come and try and join us to help out, feel free. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. Yeah, I think you used the word, I think you were saying that the building needs a lot of care and attention, and yeah, care and attention is definitely what Ed's giving to it. So thank you very much. So we'll move on from Ed to Eve now. So Eve is actually on solitary retreat at the moment. She's doing it in a very hardcore way, isn't she? She's in a Welsh cottage in the Welsh countryside, which is she had to do a 45-minute walk to get there. There's no roads. Yeah, so that's where she is right now. But she's left us a sort of term of text, a sort of video to sort of say a bit about. It's a term of text. Sorry, I realised that's a joke. Not everyone will understand. So a term of text is a sort of Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist idea that the sort of enlightened masters of the past bury these teachings in caves or in the kind of, or sometimes it's just in the they sort of bury it in the psychic atmosphere of the land until the right person comes along to deliver it. That right person tonight is Connor. He's going to be uncovering the term of text. So we'll have that now. Thank you.
Connor, we can't hear that online. Can you hear us?
Hi everybody, it's Eve here. I've been asked to do a short talk on what I am involved with at the centre and what I get out of that. So I'm doing a video as I'm when you're watching this, I'll be in Wales, so I'm sorry I can't be there in the flesh, and I'll be thinking of you all. So I'm going to be particularly talking about my involvement with the Young People's Project. So I'm the coordinator for the Nottingham's Young People's Group. And that basically means is I kind of facilitate the events with a team of people who run monthly kind of Friday evening sessions for young people to come together who are 35 years old or younger to practice. And we're also kind of connected to the wider kind of young people's movement too. So particularly, going to like retreats at Adhisthana and so forth. And I kind of wanted to talk about, mainly about vision actually. So we've been meeting together as a team, and we've been meeting with Shantikara, who is the European Young People's Coordinator. And we've also been meeting with the chair, our lovely chair, Kusa Devi, and talking about vision and the vision for the Young People's Project here in Nottingham. And it was really, really exciting actually talking about this. There's like two main aspects which came out of it, so I'm going to talk a bit about both of those. So the first part of our vision is to create more deeper, intenser conditions for young people to come together and practice. So I've really noticed, particularly in myself, but also in others, a thirst for kind of more retreat-like conditions, so more periods of intensity, to kind of get our teeth really into the Dharma, to come together and create community, to practice, to meditate. And, there's been a real good kind of collective of us from the Young People's Retreats coming, going to Adhisthana together from our Young People's events. And it'd be great just to really meet that kind of that need or that desire to be more on retreat in our events here at Nottingham. So we're going to be looking at how we can create or integrate those levels or conditions of intensity for practice. And one of the ways we're doing this, so Gareth will probably talk a bit about this later, but I'm going to quickly say something. So on the 19th of March, we are having a Young People's Day retreat. So this is open to anyone who's done an intro course, and we're going to be having, it's 10:15 till 4, and we're going to have bringing a day exploring a talk called Mind Reactive and Creative, which is a talk by Bhante in 1967. And it's going to be a day of meditation, Dharma, workshops, ritual, eating together and so forth. But it's going to be a whole day that's basically going to be an experience of what it's like to be on retreat, but just for a day here in Nottingham. So there's this aspect of wanting to create more retreat-like events or deeper conditions that are focused on kind of intensity of practice for young people. There's also then this other aspect. So I've got this I've got this root cutting here that I should have planted a very long time ago, but I didn't. And I've kind of got this as a demonstration. So this our first part of our vision is, I would say that's the root. So this is the deepening of practice together, of kind of getting a kind of a grounded kind of just kind of root basis really for us to grow from, and just to touch the depths together. And then there's this other aspect which is going up and outwards. And this is the outreach area. So we would really love in the future to be able to be more involved within the community, particularly helping with or offering things to people who are younger, so around our ages. I feel like we've got a lot to offer. I know that just from speaking on behalf of my generation, there's a lot of loneliness and just a lot of social contexts which aren't rooted in kind of, exploring the depths of our beings together and exploring the depths of others. So we would love to be more involved with Nottingham beyond the Buddhist Centre. We'd love to be able to be involved more with society. And this is we need this deep-rooted foundation in order to grow out into the world. So this is our vision. This root cutting is the vision of the Young People's Project. So depth and expansion. And I just want to quickly I'm running out of time, so I'm going to quickly talk about what I get from the Young People's Project and being involved. So the main thing that comes to my mind is I get a lot of source of inspiration and energy. It's just really inspiring coming together as a collective of young people, and it's just something feels quite radical about it. And I kind of get this the sensation of I can imagine what it was probably like when the order and the movement was first founded. This kind of collective of radical young people in the 60s and 70s coming together and creating a new nucleus for society, creating a space and an environment, a realm for people to practice and to come together. And so that gives me a big touch of potentiality. When we come together and we for the events, I'm like, wow, we can really do anything. It's I was let's do this. So I guess a real sense of potentiality when I become involved in this aspect of the Nottingham Buddhist Centre. I also find it in many ways it's quite challenging in a sense because I've had to take a bit more of a leadership role, which is something I'm definitely not used to, and I'm definitely a massive conformist. So it's actually really great for me to exercise qualities or part of myself that aren't particularly well developed. So it's very much part of my practice as well. My practice of also giving. It feels like a practice of being able to give towards something I'm really passionate about, which is the Dharma, which is practicing, and also with people, like-minded people who are also similar ages to me, and I just feel like we've got a lot to offer. It's very rewarding, and it's also very exciting and very energetic. There's something about a collective of people coming together, but definitely a collective of young, slightly perhaps idealistic, inspired young people coming together as well. That can really spark off, lots of different flames. Completely gone over time, so I apologise, but I'm just sending you all lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. So a big thank you to Eve, or wherever she is. I'm sure she can hear me on some level. So a lot of sort of passion, creativity coming across from Eve there, and if there's anyone who's under 35 who's been inspired by the vision of the root cutting, then just get in touch with Eve or Zach or me, or drop an email to the centre if you want to be involved with that team. And also just to say a bit more about the day retreat actually, which Eve mentioned there. So so that is available to book on the website if you want to make a donation for it. Sort of day of practice and friendship. When Shantakara came to visit a few weeks ago, who Eve mentioned, some of you may remember his Sangha night talk. He was there for Sangha night, but he gave a talk on the Friday evening. I'm getting confused. So some of you may remember that talk if you were at the Young Buddhist event. But we went out for an alcohol-free beer after that at the Brewdog, and the atmosphere was really nice. It was sort of wonderful to be a group of young people out on a Friday night, not getting drunk, but still the same kind of energy and like that sort of just much more relaxed kind of flowing kind of conversation. It was great. So I'm sure there will be that spirit very much alive on the day retreat, as well as an opportunity to practice. So that was the 19th of March. If you're in the WhatsApp group, or if you want to drop us an email, those are also ways that we can get your name on the list. So moving on from Eve now to a couple of the people that we have here in person. So first up, we've got Jerry. He's going to be saying a few words about the cleaning team. And we've also got Sue, who's the other kind of linchpin. She's here in person. So I think you can probably see her on the video. And those two are most responsible for keeping the place sort of clean and beautiful. One of the things that you will have appreciated or you will have benefited from is the beautifully folded blankets. Every time I come in and I see them sort of put back into that formation, it makes me feel really good. It's a bit like it's that sort of story of Milarepa having to he builds a tower and then it gets knocked down and he builds it again, and that's sort of his spiritual practice. And that's sort of what the folding of the blankets is like. They make this beautiful thing and then it gets taken apart over the course of the week and then they build it again. It's amazing. So I'll hand over to Jerry.
Right, well, I've got no props. I've got no notes either, so I'm going to wing it. I think I'll start off with when I first started and why I first started. I joined the centre, came to do an introductory course in 2018, and it was at a time in my life when I had some quite big money problems, and I needed to come here. I needed to learn to meditate. It was kind of a point of desperation in my life, really, and I didn't have the funds to be able to pay back in that way. So I spoke to members of the team pretty much, I think I was on the introductory course when I mentioned it actually, to see if there was a way I could give back. And I became a member of the cleaning team really, really quickly. It was within a matter of weeks for me coming to the centre. And I can honestly say that it changed from a process of me giving to a process of me receiving very, very quickly. It became something that volunteering was like a two-way process. It's not just giving, it is giving, but there was so much more. And the more time I came in each week after week, coming in with my little boy, meeting up with people here, just feeling how I was getting connected to the place, to the folding of the blankets, you start to feel like actually you're getting so much more back than you were giving in the first place. I think you talked about when you were cleaning that the kind of connection to the Dharma, and just the process, I think, of touching the building. There's something about it. I can look around all parts of the building and I think I've touched most of it. I can see Francis, my little boy, overactively spraying the walls with antibacterial stuff. He did a great job in that corner down there. He gave that a really, really good clean. And I compare it to when I first came and I was a stranger coming into this space. And now I just feel like I know every little bit of it. I feel connected to every bit of it. And when I pick up a blanket and fold a blanket, I do that kind of by myself. If Francis is here, he likes to spread them on the floor, spin them around. But then I try to have a bit of a moment by myself while I kind of go through folding them. And I kind of get a sense of all of the people that were in those blankets. So I know tomorrow morning when Sue and I are in here, I'll be up here and I'll be folding the blankets and holding the blankets that everybody's used tonight. And you just feel, like I say, there's something about the energy of that. And you feel connected to that energy. And coming into the shrine room, and I really love doing putting my little spinny bit in the sand, and there's something about being connected to the shrine itself as well that removes those sort of blockages that you can sometimes have. I think sometimes if you are somebody who's new to the centre, you might feel a bit nervous about kind of going up to the shrine. It kind of took that away from me, and it became a place where I felt, you know, most at home. I feel very at home, knelt down in front of the shrine here, looking after it. In terms of the team, we are a fairly small team at the moment. Sue and I come every Thursday, and it's not just working the shrine room. There's obviously all the work of cleaning the toilets, making sure everything is hygienic. Obviously, particularly important since COVID. I think we're probably a bit more aware of it than we ever were. Also, kind of just really think about how things look and how people will experience the centre when they come in. I think about things like, I don't know if you've noticed, but I like to put the mugs in colour order as well. Because there's just something about those kind of looking nice. And I think it's almost, it kind of embellishes the work that Ed's team does. You know, they've got the lovely kitchen. You kind of want everything to look nice on there and the teas to look nicely presented. And in terms of what I've gained from it, I've gained a fantastic friend in Sue. I think Sue's become, I'm not from Nottingham, and my parents are elderly and they live 100 miles away. And that kind of, I haven't got any relatives or family around me. So having a young child, then to have met Sue, who's become that kind of family for me, that I know that we'll be friends forever. And we meet up outside, you know, we don't just come and do the cleaning, we go and do other things as well. I've gained so much out of doing it that there's this desire to kind of just keep giving a little bit more. So I think just it naturally, by being involved with the centre and cleaning the centre, it's not about cleaning, it's about the centre and what it means. So it's little things like, you know, keeping an eye on the flowers. I'm sort of part of the flowers team now and do a little bit in terms of supplies and things, because you just, when you're putting love and care into the place, you notice the little things. So I need to mention that hole to Ed. Every time I see it, I think I must mention that to Ed. So hopefully that's kind of, the circles are it's a really great way of kind of recognising that the circles aren't kind of like that. You're not sat in your circle. They're all connected, and that's hopefully just a natural process that will come out of the whole thing. In terms of how the cleaning team is going to develop in the future, one thing we did last year that was marvellous, I'll cover very quickly, was there's a limited amount that we can do on a Thursday morning. Sometimes Sue's got a little dog with her, and sometimes I've got my Francis with me, and we do the best that we can with the time that we have, but actually from time to time we need to do a bit more. We had a great session last year where we did a really good deep clean, and people were able to kind of come in who wouldn't normally be able to come in and do a bit, and the atmosphere and the energy from that was really great. And then I think that's something that would be really good to continue, and maybe if we did at least a couple of times a year. And we're kind of coming out of this period of COVID now where we're all zoomed out, but and a lot more people are coming in and getting connected to the centre. So the only last thing I'll probably end on is that I never kind of, my career wasn't a cleaner. That wasn't my special skill. I didn't come here with I have a special skill of cleaning sinks. It wasn't that, or folding blankets. You know, we've all got different things that we can give, but I'd like people to maybe consider the fact that coming in and cleaning is a way of kind of connecting not just to the centre, but to all the individual members of the Sangha. It's a really good way. That's it, really.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Jerry. Yeah, very, very sort of touching to hear. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I've been really struck by the friendship between Jerry and Sue as well. It's sort of I really like seeing you guys go off for coffee after the cleaning, or and I just sort of know that you've been hanging out or outside of the centre. It's really sweet. And it's really nice to have this sort of have Francis around, and sometimes this little dog, and it's just sort of different kind of vibrant energy in the place that we don't normally have, not on a Thursday morning anyway. Yeah, so if you're interested in helping out with that, then yeah, we're definitely in need of cleaners. Jerry and Sue do a wonderful job, but yeah, if you want to join that sort of that circle, get in touch with us. So now I'm going to hand over to our last speaker, which is Zach. He's going to be speaking as the Sangha Circle Coordinator. I was very struck by what a good job he did earlier. It was really nice. Yeah, we because I'm not normally on this team, but I'm as I say, I'm a guest today, and yeah, it was lovely. We had a couple of moments of sort of meditation, and then there was a poem sort of dropped into the silence very skillfully by Zach. A lovely poem by Seamusini, actually. Yeah, and then we've had this a bit like what Jerry was saying. There's this sort of moment of there are moments of real aesthetic appreciation and responsiveness, and at the same time there's very tremendously kind of practical, grounded kind of energy, because we immediately started talking about the timings and what needed to happen with the tech and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I think you held both those things really well.
Okay. Hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be Sangha night coordinator. First of all, I'll say like why. I don't really have much of a noble reason why. Basically, I do it because no one else wanted to do it, and I have a habit of saying yes to things. And if I see something that needs doing, I tend to just want to do it. You know, kind of like what Ed was saying. I'm quite happy that I said yes to doing it. Much about what Gareth says, that path of responsibility has been really increasingly important in my process, partly because I'm I've not come from a very coordinated background. So the idea of being a coordinator at first was preposterous, because I could barely coordinate my own life. So, but I've gotten a lot better at that now, so that's good. I suppose the reason why, well, I love working in a team, and I basically think one of the most pleasurable things you can do is just to give yourself to something that you really care about and enjoy. Like, I think that's one of the best pleasures you can enjoy as a kind of human being, basically. And that's all the more enriched by doing that with other people that you also care about, you know, so that's one reason. In terms of like what I'm kind of responsible for, like the coordinator sounds really sort of sophisticated, but really I just sort of try and keep as it's kind of already been said, I try and just keep an overview of the night itself and the team, and just do things like just make sure all the roles are filled. You know, we have quite a few roles here on the Sangha night team. You know, we've got Connor over there on tech, we've got Anthony on Zoom hosting, Mandy's doing announcements, usually we have a Dharma appeal. And we try and have different people up here all the time, you know, for each one of those roles, which I think brings a really lovely quality. It's very nice having different people up here up front. It's a very good chance to learn to talk in front of people like that, if that's something that you're interested in, or if it's a bit of a cremation ground for you, which it definitely was for me when I first started coming along. I remember when I had to try and speak to a men's gathering. I just couldn't do it, and I just didn't. I was just sat here and I just sort of, no, I can't do it, sorry. So it's a very good opportunity for that, and it's nice to see other faces in the Sangha up here, you know, up front. In terms of how I see the team in general, I mean, there's been a few things that people have kind of alluded to in here, but I sort of see the team as setting up the conditions for Sangha to arise, actually. So for setting up the conditions for people to come together and meet in spiritual friendship. And that happens in a myriad of kind of really unsexy things, like, as have been said, which is just this whole area of like, you know, just making people tea, setting out the shrine room, Connor, you know, doing just some, like, staring at a laptop back there, you know, and setting up a camera, you know. Things that in and of themselves are not that totally interesting. But because they're imbued with something, with this sense of meaning, of Kalyana Mitrata, of knowing that you're basically trying to set up conditions for people to come together, meet one another, much as what's been echoed already, on the basis of growth and development, really, and the basis of interest and metta. And like, I was thinking of metta earlier today, and I was at Padmaloka recently, and Padmavajra talked about metta as a spell. And so the more traditional way of talking about metta is actually more of a spell. So we talk about it in quite sort of psychological ways, and then we're quite sort of internalized. But actually, he was sort of saying that like metta was a spell. Like, no, you're actually casting this spell, and it will have an effect on that other person. And I really like that. And I think that partly the inspiration behind the rituals is that it's like trying to create this like nucleus of energy, and you're kind of creating this little mandala, and then you're inviting people into it, and then they partake in that mandala, and then they also give themselves. And it's just this sort of field of energy in many ways. And I think I'm very lucky to work within the movement now as well, and I've become quite struck, and I've been volunteering in a number of different places within the centre, and I've become quite struck of how much of the team is a bit of a nucleus for the whole event. Actually, it's been wonderful doing some of these introduction courses with a really big team, and some of our recent Sangha nights we've had loads of the team in person, and it really does bring something really quite special to the whole evening. And I think that feels really precious and quite magical. And I think ritual just helps me personally tune into that sense of the deeper meaning about why I'm doing this, you know, why I think it's just like kind of magic. I don't know, it's kind of, I think that's the kind of thing that I find really interesting at the moment. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I need to... yeah, so, I mean, because, I mean, I quite like the way that Jerry made a little appeal for the team. I think because we have a lot of roles here on the team, it is helpful to have a big team. We're one of the bigger teams, and also we're one of the biggest events that the Sangha runs here. So yeah, we do need people. So if you are interested, I mean, much of the reason that I started volunteering for this team anyway was just because I was coming along, and I thought, well, why not? You know, why not just help put the mats out or something? You know, like I live here, so I just come downstairs. You know, so it's not too difficult. So, and in a way like that, yeah. So if you're a regular at these Sangha night events, come along and join in and become part of that nucleus, you know, and deepen those friendships, and yeah, partake in the ritual. Yeah, and if you're interested, just like reach out to Gareth at the centre, or me personally, whatever. Okay.
Yeah. So there's some other options for reaching out to us, which we'll be talking about in the second half, because we also have a volunteers team. So this is another circle who are responsible for sort of looking after volunteers, bringing people into the circles model. Geeta's going to be talking a bit about that in the second half. So you,
Rick raised his hand. I don't know if there's a question.
yeah, was there anything particular, Rick? No? A bit of an accidental hand raise?
Oh no, I was putting my hand up I'll help out when I'm there.
Wonderful, yeah. I mean, if you've got a contact for someone, then you can use that, or you can always drop us.
I'll find
Zach is going to find you. so yes, yeah, Zach will find
No
you.
worries.
So we'll hear a bit more about how to get involved from Geeta in the second half. But yeah, big thank you to Zach for that. We had a sort of miniature Dharma talk there. And I was again, there was a lot of resonance between what you were saying and what Jerry was saying. This sense of how by engaging in quite practical things, we can find sort of make connections with our highest values. It's sort of mysterious, really. I was thinking as you were talking that being part of the cleaning team, you move from toilet bowls to singing bowls. It's sort of like you sort of have this sense of like engaging with the whole spectrum of what happens here, and there's something about being so close to that would sort of brings it more alive. And as you very wonderfully sort of evoked, that then creates the conditions for other people to have this experience of Sangha. So we've got a little opportunity to enjoy Sangha in a different sense now. So we're going to move into a tea break. So we're going to come back in about 20 minutes at 8:50. Okay. A whole range of people now. We're going to move on to the sort of meditative part of the evening. So I thought, what better way to sort of respond meditatively to what we've heard than to do a session of the Metta Bhavana, which has sort of got more of a gratitude kind of a spin. So we're going to do a session of that. So the evening. Thank you. Grateful to whoever the lady is, or whoever it was that programmed the voice that says that. So just one final sort of part of the evening to go now. So as I mentioned before, that part of this sort of opening of the circles model, part of welcoming more people into to being involved here is the volunteers circle. So there's a group of us who are waiting to hear from you, who are desperate to receive emails of people wanting to do things. So one of the coordinator for that circle is Geeta. So I'm going to welcome her up just to say a few words about what that team does, and also how you can get involved. And she will also be sort of ending the evening. So this is the last sort of bit from me. Actually, I suppose I'll come back just at the end. No, I've changed my mind. So but I'll pass over to you.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Not been up at the podium before. So I'm really honoured and grateful to be talking to you about perhaps the newest circle, really, the volunteer circle, which is basically gone live now, really, going live tonight. So what I think I'll do is I just start off by explaining a little bit how it's come about. It's not really entirely of my making. I'm sure it was a notion that was here long before I thought of it. But I'm just really glad to be part of it. So I started coming to the centre a few years ago now, probably about 5 years ago. And I just came to drop-ins. I was a user. Nothing wrong with that. I was a user, and I came and I meditated and I left. I had a cup of tea sometimes, and I just did that for a while. I didn't come through a Buddhist pathway. I came through a very secular mindfulness pathway. So I just came to meditate, really. But the place does grow on you, doesn't it? And it did grow on me enough to make me want to do an intro course. And I was very lucky to do an intro course with Arya Varchin and Karina Varcha. And then, I became a Sangha member. You get an invitation to come to Wednesday Sangha nights, which I started to do. And so I was just already, just gradually just getting more involved through that. you know, being around people, feeling connected. You know, the thing about coming last in a talk is everyone said everything already. Yeah, but that feeling of connection was growing just by coming. But I still wasn't really participating in any particular way. And I guess what I feel like I want to say is that I grew up as a Sikh in the Sikh religion, and there's a lot of servitude in some of these religions. You know, you grow up wanting to give back and give back to, you know, I guess some of the conditions that allow you to be a good person. So it was there in my upbringing, to be fair. But yeah, I think that's probably quite important, really, because perhaps it came to me a bit easier. Not sure. So yeah, the game changer for me was feeling that I wanted to contribute, but I didn't really know how, and I was a bit shy. You probably can't see that, but I was shy. Yeah, a little bit like, in a way, awestruck as well by all these kind of lovely people around me that, you know, that was so open and generous. So yeah, Satchanama, an order member that has moved on from our centre now, he was here, and he led an evening back in 2019, it was, probably in the springtime, around getting some information from the Sangha about how the centre was going and what was working well and what we wanted to see in it. And he got us in groups up here and we put down ideas, you know, and I thought that was that. But it wasn't, because in May 2019, so a short time after that, I got an email from Rachel Woodburn, which I think is quite funny. I'm obviously a hoarder because I still have the email. And so she said she wrote this email following, like, looking at what I'd written on that Sangha night. And probably I must have written something like, I want to contribute, I want to, you know, want to do something at the centre. And she gave me some ideas. She gave me 3 ideas, right? So the first idea was, I'm not going to do this in the right order, probably, right? Okay. So the first idea was to, I think it was to help on an open day that they were planning. So there was one coming up in September, and it involved cake. And, you know, inviting people in the community to come and see what happens at the Buddhist Centre. So very much an open day. So I said yes. And it's interesting because that's where I was introduced to Ed's baking, another way of him, you know, being generous, yeah, hidden talents. Yeah, so I said yes. And then one of the second thing was like to help wash the towels. So before COVID days, we had real white hand towels in the toilets. So the job was to, you know, just keep on top of washing them and making sure that they came back in time. And I was a bit nervous about that, really, because I do a lot of washing, so that wasn't the nervous bit. And I separate my darks and my whites. But, you know, getting back in time, making sure they didn't run out. I came close a few times. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that as well. So obviously I'm quite greedy, you can see that. And then the third thing, she said, I think you'll be really good at maybe joining the festival team. I mean, like, slam dunk, the festival team. Yeah, and I was just like, yeah. Yeah, that was like the icing on the cake. So yeah, greedy, I said yes to all 3. Didn't leave anything for anyone else, probably. Yeah, so, you know, I probably had the time, I definitely had the energy, and I definitely had the willingness. So I did that. And it's interesting how those things pan out, really, because the towel jobs became a bit of a chore. You know, I was not looking at it through a dharmic practice way. You know, I was sometimes quite resentful, you know, and a little bit kind of like, oh God, the pressure of getting in there. I said I'd do it, like in the side down. But interestingly, when COVID happened, I really missed that job. I really missed not being able to come here. And that's like where the practice kind of showed itself up to me. And I realized in retrospect how important that job had been. And the other funny thing is that sometimes I'd come in a rush with the towels on Mitra day, so on Mitra study day, and like, you know, it was all a rush, and I would like be trying to get them up there where they went, and my pals would help me, my Mitra sisters would help me get that job done, and so there was a sense of connection right there that I hadn't fully realised until I didn't have it. So yeah, the open day was a delight, and I met loads of people. I think you were there, Claire, and you know, again, you know, people that I wouldn't ordinarily have met or stopped with and chatted with. I think somebody else said that, didn't they? You know, it gave us a bit more time to get to know each other. So that was great. Yeah, but then the festival team, oh my gosh. So there was loads of meeting and greeting and connection through doing that. You know, it meant like meeting here in the centre sometimes. Occasionally it was at someone's house with food. You know, sometimes it just involved a lot of planning and creativity. I never would say that I was that creative a person, but you know, again, you get to kind of work with aspects of yourself to see is how true that is. And yeah, I was really awestruck working on something like making a shrine. I got to make a shrine several times now, and I never knew like how much that was involved in it. A bit like what Jerry was saying, you know, your connection strengthens and deepens just by being involved in something like that. And the other advantage was there's a little back room in the centre. It's a treasure trove as far as I'm concerned, and I never went in there prior to, you know, being in the festival team, but I got to go into the special room, and that was really magic. It still is, it really is. So yeah, I got to know people through that, and I got to practice my I got to practice what was really important to me, and yeah, it was just invaluable. And it was quite easy to do. You know, okay, it took time. It did take time, and it took effort, and it meant other people around me, my family and stuff, would say it's okay and give me that time to come and donate. You know, so it had a bit of a ripple effect, but it's brought so much to my life to have been able to be here. And you know, it's, you know, I think you said it, Gareth, we kind of don't really, and you too, Jerry, we don't kind of realise what we get back in return. There's just no way to know that. And I don't think I expected that either. I didn't really have a sense of that. Okay, so I realise the time is ticking. Yeah, and so, you know, yeah, I did all of that, and I was really grateful to Rachel, and I remember writing back to her and sort of saying, I'll just read this out because this is in the email. What a treat to be involved in this special part of our centre, and a learning opportunity too, to understanding the nuances around making a special day that are reflected in the shrine display. So there was all these bits and bobs that appear on shrines that I wanted to obviously know more about. And I got to do that by building the shrine with other people. So I just want to say that last week I came to the centre and it was really busy, and I couldn't believe how busy it was. It was a bit like pre-COVID days, and you know, there were loads of new faces. In fact, I reckon about, you know, 3/4 of the people there I didn't even know. And it made me think, you know, I was like that. I was like, that was me once upon a time, coming to the centre, not really knowing anyone, but you know, feeling a sense of connection, and maybe feeling a sense of I want to give back. I want to contribute. I want to be included. So I really felt that, and I'm just so glad that the timing wise of this volunteer group has come, that we can maybe bring people in if they want that. Yeah, so the volunteer group so far consists of Gareth, Rachel Woodburn, Mandy Hibbert, Mel, and me. And you know, it doesn't have to be just us. We would welcome other people that want to be involved in this and help with this endeavour. And I guess our job is going to be very much to streamline the process of people who want to give in some way, whether that's ideas, time, energy, a skill, or, you know, just themselves without a clear idea. You know, see if we can coordinate with people who may be looking for other members to join the parts of their circle, or needing stuff to be done at the centre, so it can add in. So, you know, we see ourselves very much as being a conduit for that happening. So we will have a dedicated email address. So it's very similar to the info@nottinghambuddhistcentre.org, but instead of info, it will be volunteers. And I think volunteer, no S, no plural. And I think Connor's going to put that in the chat for us. So yeah, so what we want to do is let you know that we're live, let you know that we welcome you, and we will be plugging it hopefully at every Sangha night just to remind you that it's there, even if it's just to have a chat about it, even if you're not, unsure. So yeah, so I'm just aware of the time, it's 9:30. So what I will say at the end, we can give in so many ways. Just by turning up, we give, like, arriving, whether it's online or in person. So that's really special. And, if it is easier for us to give in a financial way, that's always welcome. That always supports the centre. So, I would remind you, if you want to donate in that way, the link is going in the chat, or there'll be a dana bowl downstairs. So please do. But yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
9:31. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so we are at the end of the evening. So I hope that you found that the sort of feast of Sangha that I have. Yeah, it's been a real privilege to be able to kind of introduce everyone. And if that's not an advert for getting stuck in, I don't know what is. So yeah, get in touch if your heart is calling you to the toilets. do it. There's so many ways. So if you're interested, drop us an email or grab someone. But yeah, we will be back next week with Harga talking about near-death experiences. So that's bound to be fascinating, actually. But yeah, thank you very much for coming, those of you online and everyone in person. And that's it.
Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth. And everyone else. Lovely evening.